Hey guys, I'm Soumya. Welcome back to the Digital Designer Show, along with my co-host Shivam.
Hey guys, welcome to the Digital Designer Show. And myself Shivam, and with me, your co-host, Mr. Soumya Ranjandora. And I know I'm the favorite one in this too. We feel that everyone has a story to inspire, to be shared, and knowledge for inspiration. And if you too have a story, please reach us at Instagram page, The Digital Designer Show. So here we go. So today it's our special guest, a person who is really enjoying every moment of his life with his favorite quote, "Oh God, I just have 100 years to enjoy," and inadvertently staying extreme composed and humble to any crisis situation. And that's my personal experience, guys. With a deep knowledge of music as a listener, and with even knowing the background and origin of music you rarely found. His presentation skills and ownership in any big task or small is really inspiring. He had been from a small family, worked hard, completed his masters from US, worked there and returned back to India when he's missed his country terribly. So guys, let's us welcome together Mr. Pradeep. Hello Pradeep, welcome to the
Hey brother.
podcast Digital Designer Show.
Hello,
So
Shivam.
finally we got your slot. Yeah, finally we got your slot after your hectic schedule, and thanks a lot for that. We really wanted to invite you this for this show because when I work with you, okay, let me tell you a very good secret. I work with Pradeep under Pradeep, and I personally take him as a good mentorship and very good mentorship because I've learned great thing not only in the professional life but in personal life. Like I have got inspiration from him when I was low, depressed even. He has given a lot of good tips. So, listeners, this show is going to be amazing and so much good to come. Stay tuned.
Okay, Shivam, Soumya, thank you so much, and thanks for giving me a grand entry, Shivam. And I was also looking out for this day. You know, we've been trying to do this for 2 or 3 weeks now,
Absolutely.
and let's
Exactly.
get started. Yes.
Yeah, so let me also tell you, he's having a very good sense of humor. So in between, you will be also getting some of the punches. So let's start. Soumya, please.
The title will be The Listener's Perspective of Music. From starting from my childhood till today, like I have seen music in the perspective of the singers or musicians, but music is represented in the perspective of the artist, but never represented in the perspective of a listener. What a listener feels and what a listener like, what a listener don't like, and what a listen need from music and why he listen music and what it means to him or her. So this podcast will gonna be in that matter. So Shiva.
Exactly. So that the journey of a listener, when we speak about a musician, he is a musician. He has been going out, but a musician cannot be a musician till a listener is there for him to praise him as a fan. And when I've worked with Pradeep, and I really found that he's having a very deep knowledge in music. When I was like, we started listening to English music when we were in 10th, if I'm not wrong, Soumya, and
Yeah,
that also with Eminem and Linkin Park. But
absolutely.
I've learned great thing like blues and all that. So my first thing will be to Pradeep, like how you got into music, like story behind it. What really inspiring story, like how you got into that listening of music and cherishing it, and you're having so much LPs, albums. Please tell a brief about it. Please, like we would love to listen to that.
Yeah, surely. So this all started like way back. You're taking me back to my younger days. Maybe I was in first or second standard, and we used to live as a joint family. My uncle, he had a wonderful audio system by these Japanese manufacturer called Aiwa. He had his turntable, he had his double deck stereo, which was all like imported underground those days. He had a really nice system, and he used to make sure that any new releases there, it's on the table that day. And he used to listen, and for me the first thing that captivated in music was hearing new sounds. It was not the lyrics, it was not the tune, it was just the sound. There are like these unheard sounds which we are producing, every day, with music, and that started captivating me initially. And when I hear something new, I did not know what captured me, but whatever captured me was like love at first sight. If there's a song I love, within 10 seconds, it used to be like captivate me. Oh my God, this song is awesome. And that's how it started. So everything did not hit me like that. When I'm passing by somewhere, I hear something. Is that 10 seconds? Maybe it's a new sound or the tune. I did not know. And he used to have all sorts of music, both from Western as well as Indian light music. So that's where I started. And from then on, okay, music stuck with me. And there was a time later, when we used to get, like, we have three brothers here. So we used to get a rupee pocket money every day. So that means 3 rupees per day. So monthly it is 90 rupees. This should be the early 90s.
Wow.
Late 80s and early 90s. Okay. So that means
What was your age then?
I should be in my teens, just starting out my teens, 13, something like that. I was born in 77. So 87 is 10 and between 13 to 15.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
So I used to get this pocket money. So that means 90 rupees a month, because 30 rupees per month for each person. We used to collect that and we did not know what to do. All I wanted to do was buy cassettes. At that time we had magnetic tapes or audio cassettes, which were like 30 rupees per album, and absolutely no internet, nothing. So it was the sheer pleasure of discovering. There used to be this shop called Stereo Vision in Chennai. I have spent a lot of time watching at the window of, they used to have a display of maybe like 200, 300 albums. All the cassettes they would have put on the window so that any passerby can look from outside. So that's how I learnt all the artists, And if a name captivated me, I got that album. If the name of the album captivated me, I got that album. If the album cover captivated me, I bought that album. And nobody suggested me that this is good music, listen to this, this is topping the chart, listen to this. It did not happen. It was a complete in and out self-discovery process. So I bought albums for these reasons. And once I get a particular album and it strikes with me, then I started going deep into that artist. So that is how my knowledge on I started off mostly listening to pop rock, and that's where I started. Then went into blues and jazz and classical, and in parallel, of course, our Tamil light music, a little bit of Hindi. And my dream always was, when I was young, my dream was, everybody has an ambition, right? My ambition was to listen to all the albums that has ever been released in the world. And one fine day, when I was mature enough, I understood that there is so much material that one life is not enough. I was very depressed that day. It took me a few days to get over that depression. Then, so that's how I can keep talking on this.
I just want to ask you that whether the thought came, I really loved the thought when you said that, oh God, I'm only having 100 years to enjoy this life. So whether the thought came for the music?
No, it came for all aspects of life. They always say, the best things in life are always free. And I always say this, if only the beauty of the sunrise was not available for everybody, just to show that snapshot, they will charge you $1,000. But then it would be a very posh thing. But in reality, you just go to your rooftop every day morning, you can see the sunrise, and that is for free for everyone. The wind, the breeze, the birds, the food, all the good things are available for free. That is reality. That's what I always think.
Exactly. That's really truthful also. Everything, most natural things are free. Not most, every natural things are free for us, and we should cherish them up. And I really appreciate that. So yeah, as you were telling, I've gone to a lot of albums. Just want to know a rough figure. How many albums you would have collected? Because if I ask you listen, then it will be a very tough question. How many LPs or albums you have collected?
Okay, this is there were different phases of my collection. So initially, when I was collecting tapes, this is until my college days, There were only tapes and CDs had just come in. CDs were very expensive at that time. Tapes were like, I started off buying tapes at 30 rupees and I was continuing to buy until they were 100 rupees. And at that time, the CDs would be like 300 rupees, way out of our budget.
Cool.
So in the tape, I probably had, I don't know, maybe 200, 300 maybe. And that was a big thing at that time because things were not easily available like these days. At that time, it was more difficult. And there was another good thing, whenever I used to buy, whatever comes to India, all the junk will not come. These days, all the junk is available across the world. But at that time, the cream will come to India. So most of the albums that are coming to India are good. So coming back to the collection, so after that I went to US and my collection was like dumped. It's all gone. And during the US, I did a small collection of CDs because I was at school. But slowly, last 20 years, I've been building it. And at this time, I don't know, maybe I have 1,000 CDs and 1,000 LPs now. That should be an approximate number.
That is crazy. Like, so many albums. Yeah.
The fundamental thing is to explore.
Exactly.
To explore whenever somebody or you're buying an album or listening to a song because your friend suggested you or it's topping the chart, there is somewhere a bias. It does not check your original taste. In order to find to your heart what you really like, the best way is to stay around and explore, pick up random music for whatever reason it captivates you. Maybe the name of the artist, maybe the year it was produced, maybe the genre, maybe the name of the song, maybe the lyrics, maybe the kind of instruments, maybe how they recorded that, whatever. You have to listen to that, not knowing anything about the song. You need not even know who the artist is, what instruments are played, and then you have to see if it strikes you. Then that is what your soul is. You will really start liking that music when you do that. So whenever you are taking the suggestion of a friend or a critique, somewhere that bias comes. I should like this song because the world liked this song, which is not a great way to go. And the suspense and the exploration is the real kick in it. And these days, again, what happens is we are listening to songs instead of albums. So because of that, and somebody tells you which song is great, which song is not great.
Yeah.
There are a lot of hidden gems and they are not famous for various reasons because if a song is not produced by a big company, they are not promoting it well, and that's why you don't know about that.
Exactly.
But you have to go inside and search for the beauty. There are so many gems around. So that's what I was about to say.
Even Pratik Ward, he's a wonderful artist, and a lot of people were not able to get him because he was not that much famous in the social media. But when he got his fame because he came to the top 20 list of Barack Obama playlist, he got one day out famous overnight. And he's a really great musician, very great musician.
Exactly. So what I encourage everybody is to explore by yourself. Every song that you listen need not be the greatest song. If you start by selecting the best songs and listening to them, you are losing two. One thing is the fun of your exploration. If you are listening to only the greatest famous songs, the hit or the feel you get has a lesser effect. But you have to struggle one day. You work hard for 10 days, then one day relaxation is awesome. If you are relaxing every day, then you are depressed. So it's like that. Don't keep listening to only the best songs. Pick various songs for various reasons. Listen to them. Find what you like. That will be your soul and it will stick with you for eternity.
Yeah. So
agreed. Totally.
Yeah. So in my case, when I was in, after matriculation, I went to a hostel in my intermediate. So there was my roommate. He's Bengali, he used to listen some English songs. Before that, I never heard English songs. I used to yeah, I used to hear Hindi songs only in MTV or whatever the channel, the TV shows, you know. So one day he had a JXT. Have you heard it? JXT, that audio player is there.
Okay.
That machine.
I don't
Okay.
know about
Yeah.
that. I'm very
It's
old
a-
school.
It's a machine actually. It's a photography of
Okay.
iPod, you can say. So
Mm-hmm.
so he bought, actually that was not allowed in my hostel. So he bought one day and made me listen one song that is called Nam by Linkin Park. You know. So the moment I
Same,
heard that
same.
song, I was blown away completely. Like from that day till now, Linkin Park is my like idol band. I love them for no reason. I don't know.
Mm.
From that day, they maybe I think when Chester passed, you know, the singer of Linkin Park, I literally cried. Like we don't share any bond together, but through the music, I felt like he was there for me in my darkest time. So that was the connection between a listener and the music and the artist. You know, the music connects one person to another, the artist to the listener. So in that in
Yeah.
my time in that case, music used to be great. You know, from Linkin Park or Eminem. What you say? I want to ask you that what at your time in your early 90s when you used to hear the songs, so what music was then and what music is now for you?
Yeah, like he has listened to, I think Pradeep has listened to the songs of 60s or 80s also, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
Or
See,
1800s also, yeah.
exactly. So if you go back to music, right? So I'll talking about old and new music. Music dates back to civilized humans whenever they started.
Yeah.
Okay, right from the tribal age, and then
Yes.
mainly the music was propagated through church. Okay, and these days we are able to sit down at home and listen because we have recorded music which reproduces. But if you
Yes.
take the olden days until maybe 150 years ago, music was performed at a center and you have to be there. Nobody had the luxury of listening to a song repeatedly like we do today.
Right.
It was
Right,
all it was all church music for a long time. For a long time, it was only the voice, and later, like we had the instruments and drums and whatever, everything came by. And the music had since the church promoted all the music, it was only devotional church Western music in the classical world. I'm talking about like Europe. Then what happened? Then the Protestant movement came. Okay, when the Protestant movement came, they were trying to slightly go against the church, and that's when what they did, they brought these composers. Until this time, the composers, they need food, right? They were sponsored by the church, they were given money, they were given shelter at the church. So all the music they made was in praise of the Lord. But when Protestants came, they wanted to give a twist. So they started funding these composers to come out and make music which is outside devotional. And that's when all the other classical compositions started to come. So I'm going right from way back. Okay.
Oh my
So
God.
that is how it proceeded, and there was a lot of like classical music going on. And I do a fast forward to the late 1800s, where we have the blues music, which is popular kind of music now in the last century, basically, which was slave music, like people who are like African Americans, they were slaves and they were singing their plight basically. Those days you have to work hard, come 6 o'clock in the evening, there is no light or anything. Okay, you have to work, and to keep the group momentum, they used to sing about their difficult plight. And it was, I've told you, Shivam, already, like it was more like a call and response. So you
Exactly.
listen to any blues song, it's a call and response. There's a group of maybe sharecroppers or somebody. There's this lead guy who is taking the lead and asking a question, and the group is like, responding to that. So that is how, the blues music developed. And in parallel, there was this jazz movement which was coming up. Okay, jazz was coming up in the clubs and bars where people can come and just freak out and dance. Blues is more like on the fields and those areas. Jazz was more at the bars and clubs and so on. So that was coming up. Okay, and still you cannot like listen to recorded music. You did not have that luxury. So you go to a bar or you in the field somebody is singing and you listen to that, and it was going on like that. So in the early 1900s they started recording. Okay, so then coming further down, what happens is the still rock and roll has not come, but recorded music have started to come, and they used to the first form of record was like these vinyl LPs, which had a terribly little playtime. Like they used to play one side of the playtime will be like 10 minutes or something approximately, because the records were spinning at 78 RPM. So what happened at that time is there was music, but you can record only one song on one side.
Yes.
And during that era, the albums were never released. Only singles were released. That's how the singles started. Because one side can hold only one song, an artist makes a song or two songs, one for each side. Or on one side they'll put the original, on the other side they'll put a demo version and then release it.
Right.
Even at this time, you were not able to appreciate things like classical music, which is like 20 minutes, 40 minutes a piece.
Yes.
You have to break it. Nobody, only we, either the people who directly attended the live concert or the people who are listening in CDs now had the luxury to listen to a classical symphony from start to end without any break in between.
Yes.
Then from 75 RPM LPs came, and those were slightly better, but again you want to listen to a classical symphony, probably it is 3 records or something. You have to keep changing the size. So that was happening. And then from the 30s, 40s, 50s, they were there, and music was still different. Music until this time was never jagged, harsh or anything, except a few cases in classical music. Early 1900 atonal music started, but until this, it is the like oldies melodies that you listen, romantic melodies. That's how music was. And then came the age of 50s and 60s, where we started to have slowly rock and roll come into play. And another important thing is most of the music, which is popular music now, has been coming from the blues or the jazz and transformed. And there was one more movement called the R&B movement, which was from the 50s. So all of these have taken their influence from, the blues and the jazz. So bottom line is the African Americans, they have influenced the music industry a lot. And at that time, until the blacks performed, the white audience, and slowly in the 50s, 60s, people like Elvis Presley started to take their influence. And, Elvis Presley is a white. And slowly people started appreciating that sort of music. And that's how it came into play. So from 60s, then came the swinging 60s. The thing about 60s is, 60s, the people were drugs was ruling the world, and this idea that we should be free, nobody should control us, all of these were at its peak. So combined with drugs and this free mind movement, music was going haywire. It was like nothing you have seen before. The artist became very raucous. Until the 50s, everybody were well dressed and well behaved, very neatly combed and looking very nice. Slowly, the rowdy, ragged look became very famous in the 60s, and the drug culture kicked in. So that was going on until the 60s and the 70s. Then the 60s and 70s failed. But this era in the popular music genre, what happened in the 60s and 70s is what I consider as the peak. I'm not talking about pioneering effect. Usually we have talked about this too. Many things are pioneered, but once a new thing is pioneered, people take it and polish it and embellish it and bring to its best form. And that, according to me, happened in the 60s and the 70s, where rock was at the peak, classic rock was at its peak, R&B was at its peak. Everything was awesome. Then we moved on to the 80s where disco, the synthesizer came in. Still music was very lively. It was awesome. And slowly we walk into the 90s. Still music was organic, very nice. And slowly in the mid 90s, what happens is there is a big overwhelming effect of programmed music, like what I would call drum machines, auto tuners, everything is programmed. That killed the music. And to this day, all the artists we have, in terms of the talent of the artists, we have amazing artists until now, but this programming has completely killed the soul of the music. What happens when you use something like a drum machine, like when you are normally playing a drums in your hand, the drum first has an organic sound, which was lost in the 90s because all the synthesizers and the drum machines were not. Maybe now they have more realistic sounding drums. It's a different story with technology. But at that time, the drums sounded inorganic. That was one problem. And when a human is playing, there is a small lead or lag. They are not, perfect timing is not maintained in drums. There are microseconds lead and lag, which accentuates the music. And with the drum machine, it became very mechanical, straightforward, without soul. That killed the music. So for me, after the mid 90s, there are very few albums, and that too, most of the albums are from the people who are from the earlier era, and some of the new artists. So that's when, you talked about Linkin Park. This is when Linkin Park and everybody is coming in. If Linkin Park has hit you so much, if only you travel back, you are going to have a wonderful time, I would say, because there is such rich music in the popular music itself. Just rock and roll and jazz and blues and whatever. But this is only one part. The biggest problem that we have is everything is only whatever is made, made free, whatever is promoted is what we hear. So we stick to the Western genre, but music is happening in every part of the world. Japan has its own music. China has its own music. Mexico has its own music. Russia has its own music. Everybody have their music. I encourage all the younger generation who are passionate about music to stop pursuing, just what is given at your hand. Rather, you go and reach out into various things, various different type of music. That will be a very, very enriching experience. And also, do not decide any music, if you just by listening to it one time and don't say, I don't like this. It is like meeting a new person. First you say hi, then you say hello, then you shake their hand, then you maybe go out for a dinner with them and you have a chat. Slowly you get accustomed to that person. But most of the time what people do is by the time they say hi, they say this is not my guy, bye-bye. That should not be the case. So I always encourage people to sit back. If you find a new song, just let it play. Don't judge the song. The problem is initially people immediately listening to a song, they want to say that this song is good or bad. You should get out of that. You have to just listen to the music. A song, maybe 10 times you have to listen, and then the magic happens. So that is what I would encourage all the new listeners to not be too. No point listening to 100 songs. You listen to 10 songs properly, it gives you immense pleasure.
Yes, and I really appreciate the effort. Really, you told whole history of the music, and that's really amazing. And
that shows how he loves music, how much he loves music.
That not only shows that how he loves, we cannot judge it even because he really loves music too much, but that shows that at the present age how much less knowledge we were having about music. Like we will be only listening to this 10 years of music, like from Linkin Park, starting from Backyard Streets. But when I also started with the journey with Mr. Pradeep, and went to the blues and touched the bit of classical, and that music is so much enriched with soul, and you will love it. So I was asking, Pradeep, like, you've been in Chennai, and at an age when you were started listening to English music, we were not even in our age also, we didn't even start that. And I even admire, like, though you started from Chennai, where whatever the LP or album, whatever been launched, that will come after 3 or 4 months, if I'm not wrong, and to Chennai, from US to Chennai, because that time there was no recordings, or internet was there. I was asking, like, as you've been to 10 years in US, you have been at, like, studies, you went for the studies for 10 years and you worked there for 10 years.
Oh, yes.
How's your musical life at US, and now how it get affected? The music was affected in US. What do you got extra thing, and what do you want to share, like, to people, like, nowadays? Yeah.
So when I went to US, it was between 2000 and 2010, where the soul was already gone. That was the time I was in US. It was program music, rock, pop, everything changed into hip hop and rap. And what I realized at that time was, until in India, the taste of music that I had in the popular music genre was more tuned towards the UK European charts than the American charts. The Americans have their own taste in music. It never clicked with me. What was famous in America at that time when I was there, they did not strike a chord with me. But what was the enriching experience in America was, I had amazing opportunity to witness live music. I was in Michigan and in Ohio. So, for example, in Michigan, there used to be the, Michigan Classical Guitar Society. They used to have a season. So maybe like 10 concerts, one every week. And there was a Classical Music Society in Michigan. They had their own seasonal concertos. So I had a chance to go and visit live music. This Classical Music Society used to organize only chamber music. Chamber music means, in the olden days, in the king's era, the king had a small chamber where you will probably 5 people can sit or 3 people can sit and play their music. So chamber music typically means it's a trio or a quintet or something like that. You don't see those big orchestras. And chamber music has its own unique soul. And in fact, I was in Germany last year. In the 2018, I was in Germany. There were many castles. You go into this castle, it's wonderful. Like, in one of the castle, I saw a nice big dining table. It's a dining room.
Yes.
And when you look above, there's a small mezzanine floor with a small open window from which you can overlook into the dining room. And that small room in the mezzanine area was for a small chamber music orchestra to perform. So that was how kings were enjoying those days. While they were enjoying their food and wine here, live chamber music was going on just adjacent to the hall, and you could listen to that. So in US, I had this wonderful experience of live music, and I was trying to learn guitar for some time. Mm-hmm. And my fingers are like kind of clubbed. So whenever I try to strum, I hear a buzz. I was very frustrated. I was scratching my fingers. These fingers are not letting me to, play the guitar properly. Mm-hmm. That's why, and so on.
I can understand.
But then I go to this, Classical Guitar Society. Yeah, this guy came here, and this guy who had some nerve problem, mm-hmm. so that he cannot, play on the fingerboard at all. Mm-hmm. He performed a complete 2-hour concert only by tapping on the guitar. Okay, it kind of, gave me a very, very deep insight that to do something, if you want to do it, there are many ways to do.
Exactly.
But the thing is, you should want to do it. And likewise, there is this amazing folk guitarist called Django Reinhardt. Brilliant acoustic guitarist person. He's probably from the 40s, I suppose, 40s or 50s. He is even today considered one of the greatest guitar guys, and he doesn't have his thumb. I think it's thumb. He does not have one of his fingers, which is essential for playing the guitar, and he is one of the greatest guitarists ever. So these kind of things were like, life inspirations for me when I witnessed these things. And the good thing about the chamber music that I saw, I witnessed music without amplification. So the real sound of the violin, the real sound of the cello, the oboe, all the instruments, I had a chance to listen live without any, there was no mics, no amplification. That means you are able to capture the tonal quality of each and every instrument. Like for an artist, it not in these days, but if you're an artist like 20 years ago, it is nothing. But from a listener perspective, how many people get to witness live music, appreciate the real tone of each and every instrument? These days, there are not even real instruments.
Exactly.
So I had that opportunity to do. And another thing that opened is I am very much interested on good music reproduction and good acoustics of the hall, so that when you're sitting back at home and you want to listen, you want to listen to like music in good quality. So basically there are these guys of set of people called audiophiles who are interested in good audio equipments and reproduction of audio. And these guys, there was a small society for the audiophiles in the place I lived. So everybody would have their amazing audio system set it up nicely, their own collection of music, what interests them. And we used to meet at one person's home every week, every weekend or every 2 weeks we used to meet. And there you had the opportunity to meet a lot of people who had, they'll introduce you to new music. You will get introduced to new audio systems, new speakers, how they are arranged and how they affect the sound in the hall. A lot of discussions on, both music and the technicalities. It was very, very rich. And there are people from all, like from 20s to 60s, people used to come. And it was again a very diverse experience that I had. And I've had the opportunity to listen to kind of, Japanese people performing and Indian fusion artists performing. So in my American experience was more into, the opportunities I got into life. And talking about pop rock, I got to attend live concerts like by people like Mark Knopfler, Phil Collins, and all these greats.
Oh my God!
Yeah, so
I love
that was because I just love these artists so much that I always wished that at least I try to attend their live concert once. So it was just amazing. So I had the chance to go and meet all these guys, and it was a wonderful experience.
So, if you ask me, then I am a rock music lover. I never listen to old songs. I started my English music listening from Linkin Park. So I had the perspective of as a listener, I have the perspective of music from a rock and hip hop mixed culture music. So my dream was to see Linkin Park live before my death, but I think it will never.
Sorry, brother.
Yeah, it will never be.
And I even want to add you said that live concerts and these are really the natural and it really gives a big impact on the listener's life. And I'm very happy also nowadays that the India is also evolving with a lot of open mics and live concert, what it was not long back. So where new at least emerging artists are coming and they're you can hear to live music. So and the concerts what are happening which was not available way long back in around 2000 or 2010 even. So now it is really happening. And so that's what I really wanted to understand one thing, because you have been in listening from long, though you already mentioned about it. I want to know, if a very beginner is starting to jump into the ocean of music. I mean the 90s music, which was having liveliness, not the when the drum machines came and software came and they really killed. You are correctly right. Exactly. When I even felt the old one, I can really relate it. So if a listener want to dive into, for example, tomorrow, Soumya want to dive into the ocean of music of the late 80s and 70s, what should be the perspective? Steps 1, 2, 3 steps. That's it. Yeah.
First thing is, if you want to dive into 80s and 90s, these days it's the era of the internet, but you should not use that overload. You should not use it as an information overload.
Yeah.
What I would say is, maybe you go to the internet, find maybe some 5 artists who were like big time in the 80s and 90s, and just start off listening to them. And
Can you suggest some of them?
don't stop by I will do. Don't
Yeah.
stop by saying hi to them. Say hi, hello, have a dinner with them, and make them good friends of yours, whether you like them or not,
Yeah.
because you eventually will end up liking them. Initially to tune your, like for example, you are used to Indian food,
Yeah.
and suddenly one day I give you Western food, it is not going to suit your palate. And it's the same thing otherwise. You bring a Western guy who is used to Western food and you give him an Indian food, it is only a difference in taste. You don't start appreciating it.
Yeah.
So you have to say your hi, hello, and spend the time with them. So do that patiently, and don't jump from song to song. Listen to albums. That is a way, you have, see, listening is a different thing. It is, don't do too much of it also. And there are kids these days listening throughout the day. It doesn't make sense. You have to focus on other things. When listening, you only listen. Don't do this background listening. You just to get that later. Once you know the song, it's a different story. But when you want to get into what you're asking, just shut down everything and listen to one album from start to end until you get familiar with that album. Meaning, see, when I was young, you take any album from my collection, you ask me what is the third song, what is the fifth song, I will tell. These days, you guys ask anybody, they will not even be able to name this list of songs in a particular album. Okay, so what I say is, when you are looking at Taj Mahal, look at the Taj Mahal in its holistic view, which people are not doing these days. What they do is they walk closely into the Taj Mahal and just look at one tile pattern and say, this is nice. But when you step back and look at the whole of the Taj Mahal, it has a magic. And both are important. You should be able to appreciate it at that fine level that you are going into. At the same time, step back and appreciate the whole Taj Mahal. The full Taj Mahal is the album or the artist or their repertoire or a particular genre. But the focus is that single song that you are listening. And do not listen to only popular songs. You start with these 4 or 5 artists, pick a song, pick an album, you like it. Out of this 5, you might like 2 artists that might relate to you. Get another album of the same guys. And that's how you progress. If you want, and you ask for some recommendation from the 80s, you can look into people like Pink Floyd, Dire Straits is one artist, and I would just suggest go to the internet. There are just too many to name, Chris Rea is one amazing artist, which I've always liked. You can listen to Cat Stevens, and if you're into rock and so on, you can go into like, Guns N' Roses, Metallica, whatever. You just start somewhere. And if it doesn't relate to you, spend some time with them. If it doesn't relate to you, then move on to another. Try to listen, pick up artists from various genres and find what relates to you.
So,
I just want to add one more name. Is that Eric Clapton?
Oh yes, Eric Clapton is a wonder. No doubt. That's why I'm saying
like
there are too many nice people to name. Like, and these days, you can just go into the internet and find and
Yeah.
take it. You have a lifetime to listen. So,
Yes.
be patient. This is the age of information overload. Okay. Don't take a bite of everything. Rather, relish one thing at a time.
So, guys, hope you love this show. Next time, we'll again meet with a new hot guest with new experiences and new stories. We always love your support that inspire us to come up with new stories every time. We also believe that everyone have a story in their life worth learning from them, life worth emotional to weep on them, life worth growing with them, and life with knowledge sharing from them. If you have a similar story, please reach out us in our Instagram page and become a part of our family, because every story matters for us every time, because we love you guys. Thank you so much.